Okay, this video is the beginning of the discussion of session 1. Because we like to do things in order, hopefully you have read the orientation, read the introduction. If you've not, we have an introduction video. And before you go into session 1, please go back and look at the introduction video. This is a very, very easy journey in terms of intellect. But you cannot take too much at one time. Do not try to read all 6 sessions because you will get confused. You will think you know something that you don't know. Take this a little bit at a time. This is session 1. We have talked about the little boy or little girl. We have talked about the black box. What I want you to do now is to think back about one incident in your life that may have wounded, may have hurt. Take that one incident and shine the light on. Okay, from what you're going to do from this point on is you are beginning a process of speaking to that little child. Now, the way we speak to that little child is through writing. Your dominant hand is the adult. Your non-dominant hand represents the child. The very first thing you want to do is to get a pen and paper. This is where the rubber hits the road. When you pick up that pen and that paper and you begin to write, you are going to write a letter to that little boy or little girl. And you're going to talk about what we're doing here. You are going to say in that letter that you have decided to join a workshop. And it is called the Talitah workshop. And in that first letter, having explained what we're trying to do, you are going to ask that little boy or little girl to talk to you. May I speak to you? Is it okay if we have a conversation? When you did the first page, you gave yourself a name as the adult, and you gave the child a name. Be certain that the name that you gave that child is a positive name. Sometimes we're called names that have meaning to them that may not be so pleasant. That's really a form of abuse. You don't want to give that child a name that is not pleasant. So give the child a name that you would have preferred to use as a child. On that first page, you also assigned an age to the adult and an age to the child. Understand that if you're 48 years old as an adult and the child is 8, there's 40 years of difference. There's 40 years of shading. And by that, I mean the truth that you think you know today as an adult has been shaded over the past 40 years. When you ask that child, is it okay for me to talk to you? May I speak with you? Then you sign your name as you would a check. And then you shift that pen from your dominant hand to your non-dominant hand. Notice I use right hand because that's my dominant hand, and left hand is my non-dominant hand. If there are people who are, the dominant hand is your left hand, then the dominant hand, your left hand, becomes the adult. So when if I inadvertently say shift from right to left or left to right, what I'm really saying is shift from your dominant hand to your non-dominant hand. I repeat, the dominant hand is the adult. The non-dominant hand is the child. Most of the time when I say to somebody, you are going to answer the question that was asked of you by the dominant hand or the adult. The dominant hand, the adult, in the first contact says to the little child, may I speak to you? Or will you talk to me? And then it's signed the way you sign a check. The left hand, the child is going to respond by answering that question. Yes or no. The little child will respond yes or no. Now, remember this. Let's just picture yourself as an adult. Maybe sitting in your living room, on the couch, in your bedroom, at the dresser, in your car, riding down the road, and a little child appears on the front seat of your car beside you. A little child comes up beside you at the dinner table, at your couch. Think about what that little child would want from you. Think about how you would treat that little child. That little child is a stranger. So what you want to do is develop trust in that little child. You want to let that child know. Once that child says, yeah, we can talk, you want to let them know that they're going to be trusted, that you can be trusted, that they're going to be loved, and they're going to be respected. There is a tendency for the dominant hand want to do just that, dominate. No, that's a no-no. There's a tendency, because the adult is older, to want to teach, to want to preach, to want to pass along lessons. No. The role of the dominant hand, the role of the adult, is to listen. Listen and support. Listen and support. One of the problems that most children have had is that there was no one to listen to them. Does not mean that you had bad parents. Some parents were not as good as others. But sometimes the parents are both working, and they may have given you a lifestyle of technical things, toys, and all kinds of accoutrements. Things that they never dreamed of having as children themselves. But what they did not give you was time. They did not listen. This doesn't even get into the really hard stuff of abandonment, of abuse. It doesn't get into that. But it can. And when it does, it can get very difficult. If you want that child to come forward, to talk, to open up, then you must agree to listen. When that child tells you something, you must believe it. And you must let the child know that you believe it. And you must be supportive. Lots of times, that child may retell an incident that you thought happened one way and find out that it happened totally different. Believe the child, because that child is your black box. And once you attend to the things that this child needs you to tend to, your life begins to change. So don't go in being the boss. Don't go in being know-it-all. Throw away everything you think you know and listen. That is the sole purpose of session 1, is to teach you to listen, to try to help you develop trust with the child, to have the child understand it. They can come to you with anything. They can tell you anything. That you understand that that's the black box. That's the truth. And the truth will set you free. You are now into the black box. You are into the truth. Let that little child talk. Use the name. Call the child by name. Let that child know that you love that little child. Has that little child been perfect? No. This child survived. And this child often chose ways of surviving that may not be so nice, and definitely may not be appropriate as an adult. For example, there are some children that learn to smile through everything. They just smiled all the time, killing themselves on the inside but smiling on the outside. People pleasers. Well, you let that little child know they no longer have to people please. There are some children that dealt with life's ups and downs with anger and rage. Fought their way through everything. Let the child know that it's okay to be angry, but it's also okay to put it down. So this little child may tell you how much they resent a certain person. Resentment at the time was appropriate, but how long does this child want to carry that resentment? Because that resentment can become poison. Let that child talk about that resentment. Let that child talk about that anger. Let that child talk about smiling all the time. Whatever they need to say, they need to say it, and you simply need to listen and support and tell them how much of a genius they were to use these skills to survive. Let that child know that there are 5 other sessions that we're going to go through, and they will get an opportunity to work through these things that have bound them. But first, they must know that they can come to you, that they can trust you, that you are an adult. When you allow that child to express themselves, when you allow that child to talk, you're 48, this child is 8. Or you're 50 and this child is 10. When that child starts talking, that child starts growing up. The more that child talks, the more that child grows up. Oftentimes, as a 35-year-old, 25-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, we see ourselves reacting to things in a very childish way. Sometimes in relationships, some people say, you're a good person, but you can be so childish sometimes. Well, when you're having fun, it's all right to be childish. We should all act like children sometimes. But when you're emotionally and psychologically stuck in stupid, because that's just what it is. When you get stuck in stupid, you need the tools to unstick you. So now you have the tool. You're going to write with your right hand, and you're going to write with your left hand. You're going to write with your right hand. You're going to write with your left hand. You're having a conversation between an adult and a child. It is an ongoing conversation, and you must practice, practice, practice. Right hand, left hand. Dominant hand, non-dominant hand. Left hand, right hand. Dominant hand, non-dominant hand. You're having a conversation with this child. The only thing about that conversation is that the child should be the one doing most of the talking. Session 1 is now open. This is Tuesday, August 4th, which is the beginning of session 1. What you need to do is practice, practice, practice. Every day, say at least an hour, maybe half an hour in the morning, half an hour at night. Talk to that little boy, talk to that little girl, let them speak. You will begin to see changes before this week is out. And if you have any problem at all, you are to contact me. And if I can't handle it, especially if it's a technical problem, then I will give your contact information to Israel, who can help you through any technical problem that you might experience. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if something comes up that you really need to get outside of yourself and talk about that you don't know how to handle, I'm here. I'm here for you. I am here for you, and you are here for that child. That child is our primary focus. That child needs all of your energy. No matter what comes up, no matter how serious things might seem to be in your life, there should be nothing that prevents you from giving that little child the attention that he or she has always craved and always deserved. Nothing should stand in the way. Oh yeah, so you got a job. Oh yeah, you got other children. You got a wife. You got a husband. You got all these responsibilities. 1 hour a day is not a lot to help this little child grow up. Let the miracle happen. It works if you work it. I cannot practice for you. You must do that yourself. I want you to think about something. If you go to the gym and you get a trainer, that's exactly what they do, is train you. They cannot sweat for you. They cannot do those push-ups for you. They cannot lift those weights for you. You must do that yourself. No pain, no gain. See you on the next go round. You should get a video from me soon, session 2. In the meantime, if you have questions, please feel free to contact me. And I will also be in contact with you by email, just saying, how you doing? Are you talking to that little child? How's it going? Thank you. I'm done.